Oh, Bill Leonard is here. All right, being the shortly after the hour of 10 o'clock, 10:03, I'd like to call the December Jobs Committee to order. We can do roll call.
Bates, Doherty,
Doherty, yes.
Ford, Lewis,
Lewis here.
Allen.
Allen present.
We have quorum.
Pirog is here.
All right. So the first order is approval of the minutes from October 14th and November 18th. Can I have a motion?
I'll move the minutes.
Okay,
Second, Doherty.
thank you.
Any corrections or changes or discussion on the minutes?
That would be a no. All right, call the roll.
Bates, Doherty,
Doherty, yes.
Ford, Lewis,
Lewis, yes.
Pirog, Allen.
Or not?
Approved.
Right. The Office of Community Reinstatement. So Scott and Maria, we had hoped that you guys would go into a little bit more depth about what all gets covered underneath this, but if you could wait and do that in January, when we have more of our members here, that would be extremely helpful. So if you want to just go through your short presentation today, that would be appreciated.
Good morning. This is Scott Berger, and my colleague Maria Gonzalez is on the line as well. Let me just introduce myself to you as the director of the Office of Community Reinvestment and let you know that our Workforce Development Division, which is one of two divisions in our office, does work to implement our workforce development programming under the guidance and oversight of a 3-county workforce development board. In terms of the county's reporting structure, our Workforce Development Division reports to this committee. And so we do bring you periodic updates and reports, occasionally some business items for your transaction. Today, we have only one item for you, even though there's 2 items on the agenda. They both involve our financial activity. And so we do implement a federally funded program that comes to us through the Department of Commerce and Economic Opportunity at the state level. Included in your packet, beginning on page 3, and I see it on the screen, is our set of a battery of reports that we bring you every month. This year we have a report for our 2 Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act allocations that have come to us in program years 21 and 22. Generally speaking, at any given time, we do typically have 2 allocations open and active. That will end shortly as we spend down our 21 funding. The life cycle on these programs is 2 years in length. So that hence the reason that we've got typically 2 allocations open for a good part of the year. And then also Maria is providing us a report on an update on our trade activity. We're waiting for an allocation to come to us to assist the trade enrollees in that program. But at this time, I will turn it over to Maria to kind of walk you through the WIOA reports and the adult dislocated worker and youth funding that we do administer on behalf of the 3-county area. Maria?
Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Scott. My name is Maria Gonzalez. I am the fiscal manager for the Workforce Development Division under the Office of Community Reinvestment. As Scott mentioned, there are 2 sets of reports that I will touch base on. The first one, starting on page 4 of your packet, we are in the second of the 2-year cycle for this WIOA 21 grant. This grant started on July 1st of 2021 and will end on June 30th of 2023. So we have until then to fully spend down those funds that have been allocated to us. In the top section of this report, you will see what was allocated to us, as Scott mentioned, through the state of Illinois and the Department of Labor, and how it's broken out between the different funding streams. Admin, our youth in and youth out of school participants, our adult participants, and our dislocated worker participants. In the middle section of this report, you will see the obligations section. Here we are noting that with the expenditure plan that we had approved last summer to start the WIOA 22 grant, our expenditure plan notes that we are fully spending down our carry-in, which is this WIOA 21 grant, and our upcoming allocation with the 22. You will see all the 100%, so we fully plan to spend down every penny, if you want to say, that we've been allocated for the WIOA 21. Then you will see where it's at within this time frame. We have spent, what we project to spend through June 30th, and what items are considered accruals and obligations, meaning that they are in, we haven't paid the items, and it just kind of aligns with how I had to report that information to the state. The bottom portion, your direct training and your work-based training information, these are required benchmarks that we have to meet to remain compliant with our funding. The direct training piece, at a minimum, we have to hit 50% of the funding that we receive for adult and dislocated funds. 50% of that needs to be accounted for training programs for the participants. You will see that through the month of our October reporting, we are at 58%. The work-based training, those are work-based learning activities that our youth participants primarily participate in, where it's work experience as they're going through their training programs. The required benchmark that we have to hit for that one at the end of every 2-year cycle is 20%. You will see on there that we are at 30% right now. So as long as we maintain that, we will remain compliant with the requirements of the grant. What you see there under work-based training for adult and dislocated, we incorporated that previous board members from our workforce development board were curious to see how our on-the-job training and our incumbent worker training programs were coming along. This is showing that we are at 56% of the budget that we allocated for those activities. So at 56% has been accounted for of the budget that we had anticipated. Turning to page 5 in your packet, we now start the WIOA 22 grant. This grant allocation started July 1st of 2022, and we have until June 30th of 2024 to fully spend down the funds that are allocated. Again, it's the similar formatting for the reports to remain consistent. Here with this grant, because we are in the first year of the 2-year cycle, we have to show the state of Illinois that we will account for 80% of the funds that have been awarded to us in the form of expenditures, accruals, and obligations by June 30th of 2023. Based on what you see here in the middle section, again, the obligations, while that looks lower, it's because I am not allowed to report unspent salary funds, unspent fringe benefits. I am not allowed to report that when I report obligations. That's translated into our projections section right next to it. So what I am able to report to the state on a monthly basis is our unspent contract funds, along with our expenditures for the month. You will see that how we're tracking, we are tracking to meet all of our necessary benchmarks as our expenditures are occurring. Bottom portion, again, with the direct and the work-based training sections, you will see that the 58% is the same as was noted on the WIOA 21 grant, and that is intentional because the state of Illinois, when they are calculating this direct training benchmark, they combine both of the expenditures for both grants. So it's a collective calculation, and you'll see that coming through every month. Work-based training, it's very minimal information right now because we are still spending down the WIOA 21 grant. As we spend down the various funding streams with the WIOA 21, you'll start to see more activity with the WIOA 22 grant. Our trade grant, as Scott mentioned, we are waiting for the executed grant agreement. We have received that, so with your next set of reportings in the for the November report, you'll start to see a separate report for our trade grant. The additional reports, the accounts payable distribution report, that report is provided by the finance team of Kane County, and that just details out all of the accounts payable activity that has come out of our department, my department, the fiscal team, to pay all of the necessary bills and stuff. Any questions?
So this is Mrs. Lewis. More of a comment and probably direct it more to Scott. Can we put together, and we could even have a side meeting on this. The numbers are great, and I totally appreciate the fact that you have to do all this reporting. I understand the importance of it. But as I sit here, I kind of want to see the other side of that, like how many people in Kane County were helped by these programs. What kind of programs are these? What can we do to make sure that we're getting the word out so the right people get in these programs? Some of that other side of it. And
Yes,
Scott, if
we're
you want
happy.
to, go ahead.
Yes, we're happy to provide you with periodic updates regarding participant activity in the program. In essence, the focus of our program is to provide job training, career counseling, and assistance in connecting with employment opportunities, generally for individuals in the community that are underskilled or undereducated, of a lower income level. Our job is really to help connect folks with the skills they need in order to be competitive in the job market. And our program is not unique. We are one of 22 workforce areas in Illinois. The entire United States is covered by this adult dislocated worker and youth programming. And the expectation is that assistance will be available from local workforce areas across the country in a somewhat uniform fashion. So this is not a program that's unique to Kane County or our area. We're a cog in the state's wheel in terms of delivering this assistance throughout the state to all Illinoisans.
Yeah, I understand that, but I want to make sure that that we are utilizing the funds, and I know we are. I'm not suggesting that we're not, but I want to make sure that like I kind of like to know like how many people did we serve last month, those kind of things. But we can talk about it later and
Absolutely.
put some more bones to this for next month. But thank you very much for the presentation. Any other comments and questions?
Yes, Scott, can I ask,
Your name?
did,
State your name.
I'm sorry?
You gotta say who you are. For the people online. You gotta say who you are. This is Deborah Allen.
Oh, you're right. Now
No, I
that
know.
we still have to identify ourselves, right? All right, Alan speaking. Scott, did we used to have these services offered? Like in Elgin, there was a social security office and people could come in and they could also get help with resumes. They could get sometimes leads for jobs. Were we part of that? It doesn't exist that way anymore. And I know you're a center, but did we used to have that connection?
Yes, at one time, we had 4 offices throughout the 3-county area, one in Aurora, one in North Aurora, one in Elgin. You're recalling the location on DuPage Court. And then we also had a location in DeKalb, and we were co-located with the Illinois Department of Employment Security. The state over the years has reduced their footprint and closed the offices in Aurora, Elgin, and DeKalb. They are still located in North Aurora. A couple of years ago, we relocated our workforce development services along with our community development programs to Batavia. And we would take this opportunity to invite all of you to stop by our office at 143 First Street and take a tour. You're welcome anytime.
Good. I'm looking forward to that. Thank
Yes,
you.
we are. Any other questions by anybody? Anybody on the phone, online? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on.
Oh, I have one more.
Go ahead.
Who does the accounting on all of this? Maria, are you responsible for that, or do you have a servant who has to take care of that for you? How in the world do you keep track of these numbers?
I am responsible for the projections, the reporting. I do have a team of 2 wonderful staff members. One gal does the accounts payable, and the other gal maintains the ITA, which is the individual training account. That's the information by participant, which all of that then feeds into the invoices. But yeah, we are a team of 3 that primarily handles the payments of invoices and reporting that you see with you.
Okay, is this a massive undertaking just to do that part?
If I could just add, like most county departments, all of our financial activity is captured in New World, the county's financial system.
Good, thank you.
All right, moving along, comments by co-chair. I just, first of all, want to thank Ron Ford, who's not online this morning, but he did an incredible job the last 2 years of kind of working through and getting input from all the shareholders in this of what's really going to add some like meat to the bones for the Jobs Committee. And we worked quite a bit on what I call the mission statement of kind of reviewing what should our priorities be, what are things. And I think we're going to talk more about that next month. In fact, I know we are. But I'm just really excited when Mr. Van Kerkhoff and Chris give their presentation. In a minute, you'll hear about all the great things coming up. So thank you very much.
It'd be lovely if you could just turn a key and fix everything. But the fact is that this has been built by Mr. Van Kerkhoff and Mr. Toth from, as I say, from thin air into something that is actually shaping up to be helpful throughout the county. So I think we just do the nose to the grindstone thing and keep. Sorry. And keep trying to build our base, make sure that since we are representative of the whole county, try to bring in all of our colleagues and see how we can boost our productivity throughout the county. Thanks again to our staff for making this cook.
Madam Chair.
Thank you very much. I happened yesterday to take a look at the 2-48, and the description of the Jobs Committee. And I had the original jobs, or the 2-48 versus the revision that has been coming through, 2 totally different documents. The original one requested that we look for jobs for our returning veterans from the Afghan war. So that's a little bit different than what we have right now. It also suggested that there was a Sparkles program, and the Sparkles program, which I thought was a interesting name, highlighted businesses here in Kane County that were satisfying the mission of the Jobs Committee, but I wasn't quite sure what that mission was. But nonetheless, I'm not aware of either one of those programs really being initiated right now. The veterans obviously have continued needs for training and reintroduction to different job skills from going from the military, but that is a shrinking pool, and that is something to be grateful for. We're not at war. So that is indeed not a huge need, and God bless our veterans and those who serve. But I'm bringing this up because I hope that then next month in January, we can redefine what the true mission of this committee is instead of just, and with all due respect to Scott and his thorough reporting of workforce development, exactly what we're doing. So there's no criticism at all with any of this. It's just a recognition of just clarity of what the mission of the Jobs Committee is going to be going forward this year.
Right. And we would have worked on that a little more today, except for end of the year, new people. I'm going to wait till next month when we've got our whole committee together.
So
But yeah,
perhaps,
definitely, we want to make sure that we are keeping up with what's going on in the world, not what was happening 20 years ago. So,
and I think jobs started maybe 10, 12 years ago. Estimate, I believe my predecessors, from what I've heard, initiated that. So that had to be about at least 10 years ago now,
yeah,
and maybe a little bit before it. Before
Mark
that
is
was
shaking his head,
with
yes.
Karen McConaughey. Is that correct?
Yeah, 10 years ago.
Years ago.
Yeah.
Good. So let's, now that it's a decade old, let's redefine what we need to do for the 2020s.
Absolutely. Thank you. If we're done with that, let's move on to the really exciting part. Mr. Van Kirkhoff.
Oh, well, thank you. Mark Van Kirkhoff, Director of Development and Community Services. And Development and Community Services Department is made up of two divisions, Building and Zoning and Planning and Projects. As a department, we report most of our activities to the Development Committee, County Development Committee of the County Board. And then our Planning and Projects Division team of planners actually work on projects and support the work of three other committees, the Jobs Committee being one, Agriculture Committee, and Environmental and Energy Committee. We're all involved in programs, coordinating with other departments to do that work. Chris Toth to my left here, and Karen Miller, who's not with us this morning. She's off today. Are two other staff people who are primarily working and supporting the work of the Jobs Committee and our economic development programs. We're really excited about this year. If you may have recall, there was a movie out a decade or so ago called The Big Year with Steve Martin and a few others, and it was predicated on their big year of bird watching, how they were going to see so many different species of birds, but it was going to be their big year. And this could shape up to be a really big year for the Jobs Committee and Economic Development in Kane County. I'll start out with what's happening this year to wrap up. Next week, Madam Chair and our two co-chairs of the Jobs Committee and myself and a few others are going to be joining a group for the press conference and launch of the Greater Chicagoland Economic Partnership, which has been in the works for some time as part of the recovery effort. And it's very excited because we're really going to be pooling resources and working coordinated with World Business Chicago and the other entities to really market and make the region competitive. So it's a very exciting development, and happy to answer questions on that as that develops. We'll continue to give updates on that, but this will be the official launch. And then this year well, this past year we applied for and were awarded a $150,000 RISE planning grant by the Department of Commerce and Economic Opportunity. We're finalizing that grant agreement. Once that's finalized, we'll be doing an RFQ for a consultant to work with us and all of our partners on developing a countywide strategic plan for economic development and sustainability. And that's very exciting. That will be the foundational groundwork towards planning and launching a countywide economic development organization. Kane County is one of the few counties of any size and economic stature in the region that does not have an economic development organization yet. So we're very excited to be moving towards that goal. And then finally, as you know from the work of our ARPA committee, that they're starting to work on the development or the different department applications. One of our applications was the infrastructure and marketing for the Fabulous Fox Water Trail. And we're waiting to hear from a grant from the state tourism we asked for $500,000 to go with the $1.2 million that the county board set aside for improving launch sites and adding new launch sites that are close to businesses and more accessible and friendly towards tourists. So that will be getting going this year as well. We'll be reaching out to the communities to help us identify what those best sites are going to be and working with a consultant to then design and construct those sites. We also applied for a grant to implement the marketing strategy that our marketing consultant for the Fabulous Fox Water Trail came up with. And we just submitted that last week. We'll be waiting to hear on those funds, but that's matching funds up to $100,000 towards a marketing campaign to get the people here and get them in the heads and beds is what our friends at the Convention and Visitor Bureau say. The other funds we've been, yeah, he is so excited. We all are on this. One of the other activities we put in a request for with ARPA funds is dealing with our agricultural businesses. That'll primarily be reported to and working with the Agriculture Committee. But one of the ones that we hope to have ready to launch in early 2023 is one we put in for working with our small and mid-sized manufacturers. And our friends up in McHenry County are doing a similar thing, working with IMEC, which is the Illinois Manufacturing Excellence Center, which is a statewide organization that works with supporting manufacturing. McHenry County has allocated some of their ARPA funds to IMEC to work specifically targeted ways with their small and mid-sized manufacturers. And we're looking to propose basically doing the same type of program in Kane County. IMEC is a trusted partner with many of our manufacturers.
May I ask a quick question on that? Are you working with women in, it's Pirog, women in engineering with that as well?
Yeah, but certainly that's one of the partner groups, organizations that would be part of the outreach and making sure their members are aware of it would be working with Valley Industrial Association, which is a local manufacturing association. But Women in Manufacturing Illinois is another one. There's other, organizations, but IMEC would be delivering the services. That's what they already do very well. We'll just help them accelerate and do more of what they're doing statewide for our Kane County businesses. With that, I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have.
One of the highest unemployment rates we have, I'd say it's not just countywide, but we'll stick with Kane County, is our adults with autism. It's something that I think we're all aware of. And rather than sitting on a couch, it's very important that we start reaching out as best we can with our manufacturers, to start developing programs for these adults to make a living, because they are certainly entitled. We are all entitled to have a productive life.
We were just talking about that before the meeting. We had that presentation, and it's quickly becoming that people with autism and, other things on the spectrum are becoming the most sought after employees because of their work ethic. They love to come to work. And as long as programs are designed, there's certainly a group that is coming to the forefront as far as really good manufacturing employees. And we've had, what were the names of the two groups that came and spoke?
Yeah, so back in October, which was ironically Manufacturing Month, and it was Persons with Disabilities Workers Month, and we had two different groups working in that area in Kane County. One was a for-profit organization based in DuPage County and Downers Grove. They're being nationally recognized for their work with Suncast here in Batavia for helping them streamline some of their repetitive packaging processes And I think they're going to be up to 40 workers there soon
That sounds right.
with autism that they're supporting in site. The other presentation was from an organization also based in DuPage County called the Parent Employment PEAP, Parent Alliance Project. Yeah. PEAP. And they are actually one of our WIOA grant recipients from Scott's department for their work at Project Search at Delnor Hospital. And their organization does Project Search, which is a national program for placing people with disabilities, training, and then job placement. And they currently work at Woodstock Hospital, Central DuPage, and Delnor. And that was really exciting to hear. They're a nonprofit organization, but they do that training. They offer side-by-side placement assistance. And from their cohort that went through Delnor last year, they had 100% job placement, either within the hospital or within other area businesses. So both of those models are primarily in DuPage County. And that's one example of what Chris has done really well on, and we've both been working towards is, finding organizations and programs that maybe are just east of us where the population has been denser historically for longer, and encourage those organizations to expand out to serve Kane County residents and businesses. So with the first company called, sorry, what?
Page County, when you're talking about, yeah.
So anyway, we've helped them get connected with the VIA and some of our other partners so that they can make those connections with other manufacturers. And so manufacturers are aware because they have employment needs of these companies that help, organizations and companies that help train in place and even work on streamlining their processes. Because we do have a large and growing autistic population in Kane County, especially for young people who are aging out of their school and education programs, have the ability, have the desire, and have the need to work. So.
Correct. So if I may continue, they'll be aging. Previously, when you were 22, and you may all know this, you were asked to leave. Our schools here at Kane County throughout Illinois support individuals with autism until they turn 22. It used to be at 22, you were gone, even if you were mid-semester. Now they allow that student to continue until the academic year ends. And then all support systems terminate at that point. And they are left through the parents or their providers to seek other employment, housing, etc. It's very important for us to recognize this, and with the shortage of employees and because of their high degree of skill set, it's a diverse skill set. And like all of us, we all have many talents. Some are in one area, some are in another. But to allow and encourage our manufacturers, especially where there's repetitive work that some people may not find interesting. This population seems to find that repetitive work very satisfying, and it's desperately needed. So I just want to make sure that we don't forget about these people, these men and women who are certainly entitled to have a satisfying life and to be able to make at market wage as appropriate. Because even several years ago, they made below market. I mean, way below market. And now that law has changed. And Scott, you can correct me if I'm wrong. They have to make at minimum wage at least, which I think is very appropriate because otherwise they're being taken advantage of.
Right. The group out of St. Charles, they do their things at whatever they call the St. Charles Hospital out Northwestern, is it? Used to be Delnor, it's, these names. And they're in programs all the way from, one of their success stories was a young man who he started out in the mailroom And now he does all the training for the mailroom. And all they had to do was help him with things like when he delivered mail, they had to actually like help him with a little bit of how do you talk to people? You know, some of those skills that, and now they love him there. He does all their training for them, you know, and they had story after story like that for us. So it's definitely, and I think the one good thing of the pandemic and the fact that we have so many job shortages is we're starting to think about everybody is employable, you know, and I think we're really kind of starting to take the, you know, the whole ADA thing and finding accommodations for all of our, you know, all of our people, because there's opportunities. We just have to, you know, match them. So that was our first effort at that, I think, and I think there's going to be more of that kind of stuff coming on in the county.
So since this Jobs Committee, if I may, once again, I'd like to challenge us here at Kane County. I know we have a non-discrimination policy, but I mean this in all seriousness, and it's something that I spoke about when I first was elected to this position, that we define a policy and outreach here
Mhm.
in Kane for our employees. And maybe we can ask Jamie Labrillo to present here on what that possibly could look like for Kane County to make sure that we, if we're going to talk it, we also need to walk it.
Yeah, I agree. I agree, very good. All right. Yeah.
I'm serious.
No, I wrote it down. I'll get with, I'm on that committee too, so we'll get with them
I
and,
really appreciate that. Thank you.
yeah, no. On a little side note is I've been going to District 131. They have what they call a transition program, which is the group of students that are high school age and are about to leave those programs at age 22. And I've been talking to them a lot about what are we doing to make sure that when these children or adults at this point age out, we can't just send them home to sit in their parents' house. We have to find ways to help them move into other areas. So beginning conversations on that, but that's definitely, my radar was up on that. And then when I saw those presentations, it started to kind of spark some things. So yeah, definitely. I hear you loud and clear on that.
Then one last thing to report,
Mr. Kirkhoff?
one last thing to report, we're very grateful to the State Department of Commerce and Economic Opportunity. They completed a 6 or 7 stop listening tour that the director and the deputy director for the agency did. Elgin Chamber of Commerce hosted listening session earlier this week, which was hosted by Joe McEwen, who's one of our representatives, works very closely and a big champion of Kane County in his work in the Northeast region. And they, ran through their programs and things that had been coming out. And then they stopped to talk about some common good feedback on issues they've been hearing around the state. But the number 2 issue on their list was that workforce housing is an economic development issue.
Yes.
And we had a good discussion about that. They're beginning to talk as an agency with their counterparts at IDA about, we're not a housing development agency, being DCEO, but we have companies that are looking, to, we're competing nationally and internationally for locations, and for companies that even just want to stay and expand, and workforce is their number one issue. A company located in Elgin had to cut their workforce expectations or their projections because they weren't able to find the workers, and they're going with more robotics. But we need to be able to show our existing companies and future companies that want to come in, that we have the workforce for them. We're going to be competing with other communities around the country for that. And in order to have workers, you need to have housing. It's that missing middle. That's not the ones that typically get funded with the tax credits, but they're not the high-end luxury housing. And so that's on DCO's radar. And I think any ideas that we come up with as a county or find, what else is working around the country, that they're open to listening at DCO.
I had Pirog. I had the opportunity to meet with somebody from the Illinois Realtors Association at a social event. And we were talking about our interest in workforce housing. And one of the things that this gentleman shared with me is why there is resources provided for workforce development. The other part of that equation is developing housing for our workforce, with that middle ground, where probably I'd say maybe 70%, 65% of the population lives, has no housing support. So it's very difficult for a developer to come in and to be able to build workforce housing and make it financially viable for them. They get the tax subsidies for affordable housing and supportive housing. They make a profit off of at market. But the affordable, and I don't want to mix it up with affordable supported housing,
Right.
but the housing for everybody who works,
Yes.
there is absolutely no supports for them. And with the cost of supplies, and that will continue to escalate, and the cost of wages, which will continue to escalate, and land, which will continue to escalate, and infrastructure support as well. They're caught in the middle. So when a developer will come in and look at the need, and knowing that it would be rented out or the condos would be sold very quickly because of the critical need, they do the math and they go, sorry.
Last month, we had guest speakers here from, I know they were, I can't remember the name of the organization, but it's the developers that did our Copley project in Aurora, and they've done some of the projects in Elgin, and they're now doing a couple more in Aurora. And they challenged us as a jobs committee to, if we knew of any places in our communities that we would like them to come and look at. Because like in Aurora, they took 2 old school things, and these are all, it's Corrigan and Clark, and I can't remember all the names, but they're all people that we're familiar with in the housing markets. And they did challenge us to say, hey, if you have opportunities, and you know of places, let us know, because they know how to get the grants, they know how to do all these kind of things. And the properties that they're turning out are just beautiful. And it is in that workforce, area. And I can't remember the other organizations,
Something with Fox Valley in it.
the Fox Valley Initiative, there were several of them, but I kept all their cards, and as I drive by places, I think, because we really do have to all get a little creative on these things too. We can't put in these big mega things.
So I'd like to work with the legislative committee. And I've already spoke yesterday to one of our state representatives, and I will continue to begin this and working with our lobbyists. I believe our next step is not just to do it for Kane, but we have to do this regionally, that we start asking the state to start taking a look, working with the Illinois Realtors Association, on what kind of grants or set aside programs, whatever it may be, to help support this critical need, because it's certainly a need here. We cannot continue to grow and expand our own job market here in Kane County without providing the resources for people to live.
You're absolutely true.
And transportation is going to be secondary to that. But this has been something that has been brewing, and Mark and I have talked, this has been brewing here for 20 years.
Yeah.
And now it's becoming incredibly critical because of the cost of housing have gone up so high.
Right. This a little side note, but I'm on I just got asked to be on a board for a nonprofit organization, Aurora, and they got IDA funding. And their first project with the IDA funding is they bought a 4-flat and they're going to renovate it with this money. And then they'll lease it out to people that have hardships. And the way it's built in is we'll have a lease and the people will the first month not have to pay anything for rent. And then we'll make sure they get jobs and then we'll help them with more rent. And by the end of the year, they'll be out of there and other people will be in there. Because it's the other thing, we do have a lot of people in our community that have hardships, people that are coming from our homeless shelter or people that just can't afford right now to get into these. So it's kind of an innovative project that IDA is funding. And right now we're unfortunately or fortunately working with the zoning people in Aurora to make sure that, that we're complying with everything because they want to make sure, because we do have people that are saying, wait, people with hardships are going to live next to me. I don't know that I want that. So that's another thing we have to, be a little more, I guess, give a little more grace to people that are our neighbors. So anyway, we could go on. This could be a 4-hour meeting if we let it, because you just said all of our passions.
Well,
So I guess if there's no comments or questions, I have no new business. I think we kind of discussed things that are coming up in the future. And so I have nothing new. There was no public comments. And so then I guess we need a motion to place the reports on file.
do I get to move?
You can motion it.
I will move. Alan moves.
and
40
I'll-
seconds.
30 seconds. Any questions?
Roll call.
Yeah, roll call. Yes, we don't have any questions.
Bates, Doherty,
40 yes.
Ford, Lewis,
Lewis, yes.
Allen,
Alan, I.
approved.
No need for executive session.
Do you
No, we're not going to. So,
mention that we'll do?
yeah, we were originally going to vote on the release of open session minutes, but we are delaying that till next month when we have more of our members here. And that's in accordance with state's attorney. So that will not happen today. If nobody has any other comments, then we just need a motion to adjourn.
So move, Doherty.
Yeah, Lewis will second. All in favor?
I.
Thank you.